You know, I'm a gearhead. I've been working with cars ever since I was 8, 9 years old. There's no other occupation that I would have ever wanted. When you have these cars and you work on them so long, you know, there's a lot of heartaches that go into, you know, it isn't always smooth when you're working on it. The ultimate thing is when you're driving it down the road and it's moving and it's stopping, and that's a high you can't replace with drugs. You know, I mean, and this is a drug, I guess, you know. Today everybody's more in a hurry than they were back then. We didn't have things to be in a hurry, you know. My name is Pete Gentile. I drive a 55 Chevrolet. It's an ex-drag race car, and I have a 1955 Ford convertible that I'm in the process of rebuilding, making a mild custom car out of it. I got into the hot rodding thing because the hot rodding thing was more a blue-collar type of a hobby. People were building cars that had a personality to them. You could tell, you know, that they took a lot of time when they completed a car. It looked really nice. I bought the car from a friend of mine that he was going to go drag racing with it. It was just a bare body with 4 wheels on it. And I says, well, if you want to sell it, let me know. And he says, well, just give me what I got in it. And I think at the time I gave him $400 for the car. And I took it home, and then I started doing the initial work on the car to get it, to put an engine in, to get it running. The name of the car is Injecticide. One of the young kids that worked for us, he was into horse racing. And he come in one day and he says, I got the name for the car, you know. And he says, Injecticide. And I says, Injecticide, what's that? He says, well, you got the Hillborn fuel injection on it, and some horse that was racing in Detroit at one of the horse tracks. At the time, I had a garage and a gas station. I felt that if I had a car, you know, with the name on it, and the car was a fairly good runner, that I could make money installing, doing engine work and things like that for other people, which proved out to be a pretty good mix that we were doing this. It was fairly competitive, and for not being sponsored like a lot of them were sponsored, that were able to put more money in it. You know, I was feeding a wife and 2 kids and working, and I ran from 1965 to 1972. The end of 71 was the last year I ran Detroit Dragway and Milan, Motor City on the other side of town, and then in Windsor, Canada. Them were the 4 primary tracks. This car ran 1177 at 119 mile an hour, which was a 1/10.5 off of the national record. In 72, NHRA changed the rules, and I decided to stop racing along with many, many other people. I took and parked the car in a chicken coop. It sat in a chicken coop for many years. It doesn't have the Hillborn injection on it now. It has a supercharger, a GMC 671, detuned to about 600 horsepower right now, but it's capable of probably 750 with more carburation and more camshaft. I just cruise in the car. I don't drive the car fast. I take grandkids, take them up to the Dairy Queen, take them to the cruise, take them for a ride. It drives very well on the street, never gives me any problems, doesn't overheat. In fact, it runs a little bit on the cool side. I had overheating problems with it originally, and it took me a year or so to work through them. When you're going down the road and you have people that are tooting the horns, taking video of the car, you can't replace that. I've had guys that they'll walk right out in front of the car and stop me and say, is this the same car that raced at Windsor Dragway back in the 60s? And you say, yeah. And the guy says, you made my day. I had this 1955 Ford. I was 18 years old. I bought it out of a scrapyard. It had a blown motor in it. I teamed up with a friend of mine that was a trimmer. We worked one winter and we did a padded top on the car. I put a 300 22 cubic inch Ford motor with dual quads on it, and it was souped up quite a bit. At 21, I got married, and I got activated into the National Guard during the Cuban Missile Crisis. So I took the car and I dropped it off at the Alexander Brothers, which were the Eastern Division of Barris, and they were doing some work to the back end of the car. I was gone for a year, and when I came back and I picked the car up, I was married, I needed a home to live in, the wife was expecting, so the car kind of took a back seat. One of the kids that used to come in all the time, he was bugging me about the car, and at the time, I didn't think the car had any value to it, so I signed the title over to him. He was going to fix the car. It ended up that he didn't do any of that. He left it on a side street in front of his house. The car eventually was sent to the scrapyard and cubed, and that was the end of the car. After that, it was always in the back of my mind that I would like to do another car and try to complete the job that I had started on it. At one point, I was looking, and there was an article in there that was featuring Alexander Brothers cars that they had completed. I was scrolling, and I seen some of the cars, and I said, well, I don't have enough time to sit and go through all of them. So I went back. I was going to get out, and I said, well, I'm going to go back. And the first picture that I came to was a picture of my car sitting in front of the Alexander Brothers shop. And I said, wow, that's incredible. I says, I've just been kicking myself all these years, and all of a sudden, here's a picture of it. So then I contacted the individual that had posted the picture, and he says he thinks he knows where these books might be. The next day, when I opened my mail, there were pictures of the magazine cover and the articles from one of the magazines. And I couldn't hardly believe it. And I'm saying, my stars are starting to fall in line here. I got to get busy. So I located one, and it was in Owensville, Missouri. The car wasn't as good as he said it was, so we renegotiated the price, and I brought the car home, and since then I've taken the car apart, and it's worse than anybody would have thought. If they had left it setting in the water for 15 years, it probably would have been in better shape than being out of the water and the air get at the metal, and that's what helps the rust start. The car was pretty much into two pieces, the front half and the back half of the car. They were just hanging together. The main goal is to get that Ford in one piece so it can be lifted off of the frame, and I can do the frame work, and then finish the work on the body and do the paint work on it and reassemble it, and then work on getting the interior, getting all of the chrome re-chromed on it because it's all pitted. The car pretty much is going to be like a new car, or like a new 55 Ford convertible that will have some modifications done to it. Back then, I could work 8 or 10 or 12 hours on a car, and maybe even more, if, depending on what it was. But now with the back issue that I have, about 4 or 5 hours is equivalent to about 12 hours of what I used to do before. I had thought it'd be about 2 years, 2.5 years, but I think it may still be another 2 years before I'm done with the car. No, I'm not regretting it, not at all. I just hope I live long enough to finish it.